Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe family of companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating, and air restoration, flood and remodeling services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit BillHowe.com. And by the Conrad Trebas Foundation, Darlene Marco Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.
There is a growing campaign in San Diego to fix a deadly intersection. Thank you for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. An online petition to improve the safety of the University Heights intersection has more than 1,200 signatures. KPBS Metro reporter Andrew Bowen breaks down the costs and whether it's something the city can afford.
If you've driven through the five-way intersection of El Cajon Boulevard, Park Boulevard, and Normal Street, you've probably experienced firsthand just how dangerous it can be. It's confusing and sees close calls almost daily. 2 years ago, a pedestrian named Josh Gilliland was struck and killed trying to cross the street here. The online petition is asking the City Transportation Department to do a traffic study and come up with options for safety improvements. Officials say the study would cost about $600,000. City Council member Stephen Whitburn says that's a cost the city can afford.
Parking meter rates went up this year. That will add tens of millions of dollars in revenue. We should use a portion of the new parking meter revenue to fund the study and begin improving this intersection to make it safer for pedestrians, for bicyclists, and for motorists.
City planning documents call for a roundabout at the intersection. And there's a potential model just a few miles away on Florida Street in Balboa Park. In 2022, the city installed what it calls a quick build roundabout there. Instead of pouring new concrete, they drilled plastic bumps into the asphalt. That saved hundreds of thousands of dollars and delivered the project years faster than a more conventional design. Advocates say the city's budget deficit is precisely why a cheaper and faster improvement to this intersection is necessary.
We recognize that the city is facing serious financial challenges right now, and we appreciate the work being done to continue it moving regardless. But in tough times, especially in tough times, government must fulfill its core responsibilities, balancing power between the strong and the weak, building infrastructure, and protecting its people.
The City Council is due to vote on a budget for the next fiscal year in June. But safety improvements are urgent. A dog park next to the intersection recently closed after a driver crashed into the fencing. That's happened 3 times just in the past year. Andrew Bowen, KPBS News.
On Wednesday, the San Diego City Council will receive Mayor Todd Gloria's revised budget plan for the upcoming year. Balancing the city's budget isn't easy. From public safety to housing, parks to potholes, every dollar matters. And in our new interactive game, you make the tough calls. Raise revenue, cut spending, and choose what San Diego can afford. Can you balance the budget? Play now at kpbs.org/budget challenge or scan the QR code on your screen. For years, residents in San Diego South Bay have had to deal with strong odors linked to an ongoing sewage crisis. KPBS video journalist Matthew Bowler says it will get a bit worse before it gets better.
Its beauty is undeniable. More than 370 species of birds, including 6 endangered species, call this home. The largest coastal wetland in Southern California, the Tijuana Estuary. The wetland begins near I-5 at the border and runs west to the ocean. And every year, billions of gallons of pollution flow from Tijuana into San Diego and out to sea. The beach here has been closed for more than 1,000 days. And things may be about to get worse. The County of San Diego is warning people about upcoming work in Mexico that could cause even more sewage to flow north. It's the second and final phase in the connection of a sewer line. Imperial Beach business owner Brandon Ruiz is hoping this will be one of the last times IB is subjected to the smell.
I mean, it seems like almost a necessary step, to ultimately getting rid of the stink.
The county says people who are affected by the smell should do a few things: limit outdoor activities, keep windows closed, and use an air purifier with a HEPA filter. The county says this work needs to be done for, quote, preventing potential catastrophic failures and increasing reliability of Tijuana's wastewater infrastructure. Ruiz says he understands it's a complicated issue, but
I'm just hoping ultimately it gets solved, you know? Yeah. Because I love IB, and I want to stay loving IB, you know?
The work is expected to begin tomorrow and take about a week to complete. Matthew Bowler, KPBS News.
The governor of Baja California will have trouble visiting the United States. Governor Marina del Pilar Avila says tourist visas for her and her husband have been withdrawn by the U.S. government. Avila says she expects the matter to be clarified soon. She hasn't given any details on what led to the decision. The governor's husband says the revocation is not part of any formal indictment or investigation. A Logan Heights parish is joining a lawsuit to keep churches off limits to immigration enforcement. KPBS reporter Katie Hyson visited to see why.
Our Lady of Guadalupe Parish calls itself an immigrant church. In January, the Trump administration took back a long-standing policy that churches, schools, and hospitals were generally off limits to immigration raids and arrests.
That just sent, I would say, fear tremors throughout the community.
That's Reverend Scott Santa Rosa. He says one church member put it this way.
She said, Padre, es como que están cazándonos como si fuéramos animales. It's as if they're hunting us, as if we're animals.
When churches first became fair game for immigration enforcement, Santa Rosa says the pews were noticeably emptier. People were afraid, but then attendance rose again, even higher than before.
A lot of parents who might be undocumented send their children, their adult children, to do errands for them. So the only thing they do is go to work and come to church. But what they can't send their kids to do is to go to church for them. They need to come themselves, and I think they're making that decision, and they're weighing it, and they're taking the risk.
Our Lady of Guadalupe suspended the migrant shelter they used to run out of their community room. Still, Santa Rosa says immigration challenges are consuming them, making it hard for staff to serve in other ways. In a divisive time, he believes the lawsuit will find common ground.
God doesn't really ask questions about whether we have documents or where we were born or whether the president of the United States or a priest or whether we're rich or whether we're poor. God loves us all because we're God's sons and daughters. And I think everyone would agree with that.
The parish is one of 5 plaintiffs in the suit, including 4 religious organizations. Katie Hyson, KPBS News.
We've been following the story of Green Oak Ranch in Vista, where a land sale threatened residents of an affordable RV park. Ongoing litigation between the tenants and their landlord is keeping the site from being occupied and used. KPBS North County reporter Tanya Thorne tells us that's affected an annual event for veterans.
The nonprofit Solutions for Change was slated to take over most of Green Oak Ranch at the beginning of this year. Their plan was to use the property to expand their program for homeless families. But that hasn't happened because there are still tenants living in the Green Oak Ranch RV park.
The evictions were supposed to take place by December 1st, really.
Hannah Gailey is with Green Oak Ranch Ministry, the former ranch operator. They're still the landlord of the RV park, and they still own 28 acres next to the land Solutions for Change is taking over.
The ministry moved over to the 28 acres on January 1st, and the 5 remaining RV park tenants are contesting the evictions. They just don't want to leave. They have a lawyer.
Gailey says the ministry now has to refile eviction proceedings for the 5 remaining tenants on the property. Until they leave, Solutions for Change can't move in.
So the land is just locked. So nobody's using it. In the meantime, we had a large homeless encampment that came in that we had to clean up.
While the legal fight goes on, no events or programs are happening on the property, including the annual North County Veterans Stand Down event.
We had to have a date set. We had to, to plan everything. And since we don't know, we decided as a board to push it out to April of next year.
Matt Foster is president of the event that was supposed to happen this fall. It is now being postponed to next April.
We depend on the Green Oak Ranch for the environment there, just to calm our veterans down and to make it the place that, make our event the place that it is.
Foster says without Green Oak Ranch, the Veterans Resource event may not happen in North County. He says there is no other venue that could host a 3-day camping retreat for veterans, along with resources at the same time. Over 700 veterans attended the event in 2024. Tanya Thorne, KPBS News.
Wildlife experts say the situation is improving for marine life off of our coast. A devastating algae bloom caused deaths among animals big and small in recent weeks. Lauren Posen tells us how the worst of it might be over.
After heartbreaking scenes up and down the Southern California coast of hundreds of marine animals stranded on the beach, sick or already gone from domoic acid, there's hope.
For about the last 2 weeks, the plankton that caused the toxin that's been hurting the marine life has been coming down significantly in abundance.
Dr. Clarissa Anderson with the Scripps Institution of Oceanography studies phytoplankton, microscopic plants in the ocean that can grow rapidly into algae blooms. Recent tests show the number of plankton is shrinking all the way from San Diego to the Santa Monica Pier. Earlier this spring, they were the worst on record.
We've seen some changes lately. We've seen a slightly uptick in temperature. We had a storm that mixed things up a bit, and so all of that together means that just the entire plankton population has actually come down. So chlorophyll levels are really low right now.
Rescuers at the Pacific Marine Mammal Center in Laguna Beach say they've noticed.
We're incredibly excited to say that those low numbers have also reflected in our stranding numbers. So we actually haven't had a live dolphin strand for over a week, which is a huge reprieve for our team.
The natural toxin is released during harmful algal blooms near the ocean surface, and animals get sick or even die if they eat fish or shellfish exposed to it. Dr. Alyssa Deming says that's what happened to Davenport, the sea lion. After a month of care at the center, he went back into the water Friday morning.
Davenport got a ride out by OC Harbor Patrol with our rescue team and brought him about 4 or 5 miles offshore and let him off the boat. And I've never seen a sea lion run and jump into the ocean so happy.
Deming says the drop in toxin levels is great news for sea lions, but other marine life might still face challenges.
We even had a few whales that came up for domoic acid, which is also not common in this area.
Like with anything in nature, ocean conditions could change. Anderson says we might see toxin levels keep dropping along the coast, but they could go back up, too.
We've got all of our instruments and monitoring happening. The moment we see a change, everyone will be alerted.
And that was Lauren Posen reporting. Herbal medicines discovered long ago by Native Americans are recognized today for their healing powers. KPBS Sci-Tech reporter Thomas Fudge met with members of local tribes about how they sustain their culture, finding medicines and tools in the San Diego environment.
This is a acorn ring game. So these are the acorn caps from the white oak, interior white oak. And the idea of the game is to try and catch the rings. Got one. I'm William Pink. I'm descendant from the Awakology Capeno from Warner Springs. In my 20s, I went around and visited a lot of the elders and, was trying to learn things as much as I could from them at that point, because saw at them that we were losing a lot of information. So I spent a lot of time working with a lot of different elders, actually up and down the state of California.
Southern California plants are so powerful because they provide medicine, food, construction materials, tools.
What is technology? It's it's how are certain things made, that you have to employ certain tools to accomplish certain things as well. There were no metal objects. A lot of these were done without any metal tools at all. So these are stalks from the dogbane plant. They grow in single stalks and they produce a fiber, but it was one of the major sources of fiber for textiles in the Native American community. There's two ways of preparing the dogbane. One is kind of blistering the bark off. You don't want to scrape it. It's actually, because if you scrape it, you destroy the fiber.
What are you doing now?
I'm spinning on 2-plying the cordage. Then I'm going to let you try and break it so we can get you on film. So I always offer to pay $20 anybody that can break it. Well, I go home $20 richer today.
I'm Mel Vernon. I'm the captain of the San Luis Rey Band of Mission Indians. We're a Luiseño tribe here in the Oceanside Vista area. We're in a place here in Vista, undisclosed area. Our tribe is the stewards of this big rock behind me called Indian Rock, but I'm sure it had another name in its time. There was village sites around here, and it has the red ochre drawings on it from young women that had performed their puberty rites. And so after their completion to become a young lady, and so to take their place in the tribe, to have their status, that they would make their mark on this rock.
My name is Michael Serta. I'm a tribal member of the San Luis Rey Band of Luiseño Mission Indians. And I've been kind of known in the tribe as the plant person. About at least 65 plants here on this lot, and there's a third of them are medicinal. And science today is telling us that our ancestors were using them in the correct way. But sure enough, there's chemicals in there that they know that do the healing. Anti-inflammatories, antibacterial, antimicrobial.
Tell us about this plant that's behind you. What's it called, and what does it mean to your people?
It's called cootpot. People out there know it as the common name as elderberry, blue elderberry, Mexican elderberry. It's medicinal. To our people, it's sacred because it saves some lives. It relieves digestive issues, breathing, respiratory issues. It's high in vitamin C. And another plant that would heal is right next to us, and it's called hoovul. Today, people know it as sagebrush, California sagebrush. Its scientific name is Artemisia californica, and it's well known. And because science has proven that it does do what our ancestors were using it for. It's an anti-inflammatory. Okay. It's a disinfectant.
I think, there's a medicine there we all have that's been disconnected from ourselves in many ways. So the medicine people, and even today, you have something that's wrong, or you think it's wrong, and somebody else says, no, it's just this, and you feel better about yourself. Yeah. And that's a healing, pretty much an instant healing.
My dad used to take us out on horseback riding back in the back country. That country. Back then it was between Vista and Carlsbad, between Vista and Oceanside, or San Marcos, Escondido, or Bonzo. There was nothing out there. Now it's all track homes.
And again, I says, Adele is French. So I says, how to invite you?
Thomas Fudge covers science and technology for KPBS. At kpbs.org, you can find his recent story on opioids and pain management. You can also watch all of our stories on the KPBS YouTube page.
It's a breezy time, and we are turning cooler across much of the area. Now, the wind's going to stay very active through Tuesday. Wind advisories will not end for the inland areas until Wednesday morning, early around daybreak or before daybreak. We'll turn sharply cooler Tuesday, especially inland. We're all going to be a little cooler, but you're going to have a bigger drop away from the coast. And we'll have a little hint of more moisture returning this coming weekend. But tonight, 60 degrees, partly cloudy, windy inland overnight tonight. And there you can see in this lavender shade, many areas under wind advisories for the interior Borrego Springs, Julian, Pine Valley up at the Big Bear, Wrightwood as well. Not quite windy enough for an advisory here along the coastline, but there are areas here where we are looking at a 40 to 60 mile per hour gust potential through Tuesday, especially into inland San Diego County. So beware of that. Into Tuesday, we're going to have some showers and snow way to the north up into parts of the Sierra, but we're just cool and windy in Southern California. The heat's sequestered into the plains. Very hot there in the northern plains, but we are a lot cooler here under a deep trough. So as we take a look at the forecast here for our Tuesday, wind remains a big story. Turning cooler, highs only 48 degrees into Mount Laguna, 78 Borrego Springs. Often, typically a lot hotter than that. Some of you are 10 to 15 degrees cooler than the average. Could see a couple of sprinkles sprinkles out near Oceanside. The farther north you are, the more likely you are to see a sprinkle or shower. And we could see a few showers kick in to areas as far south as San Diego on Tuesday, but it's more likely to the north that we see something maybe measurable in the rain gauge. Mostly sunny then later this week. It will be a cooler time, though, for most of us. Inland areas here, you can see we drop down into the upper 60s on Tuesday, back into the low to mid 70s Wednesday and Thursday, but not a bad time. Into the mountains we go, and here we're downright windy and cool. 48 Tuesday, back into the 50s Wednesday, Thursday. Winds subside, bright sky, and then some low clouds return with some of that moisture at the end of the week into the weekend. And in the deserts here, we're also really avoiding the heat for a few days. 70s and eventually back into the mid to upper 80s Wednesday. Low 90s return, and then we have another cool down coming for Saturday. I'm Jeff Cornish for AccuWeather here for KPBS News.
I'm Amna Nawaz. Tonight on the NewsHour, a deal to lower tariffs for 90 days seems to cool the trade war between the U.S. and China. That's coming up at 7 after Evening Edition on KPBS.
Yet another problem over the weekend at Newark Airport in New Jersey is prompting the Trump administration to take action. Equipment issues caused unsafe conditions in recent weeks, forcing thousands of delays and flight cancellations. Ivan Rodriguez tells us what's being done about it.
After another air traffic control equipment outage, the Federal Aviation Administration implemented a ground stop for Newark Liberty International Airport-bound flights Sunday morning. This comes after a 90-second-long radar and radio outage last Friday at the Philadelphia-based TRACON facility, handling flights departing from or arriving at Newark. Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy says it's still safe to fly into Newark.
I fly out of Newark all the time. My family flies out of Newark. And just when we saw these two incidents, when we have issues, there are policies and procedures in place for controllers and for pilots. They know what to do.
All while admitting many systems air traffic controllers use are old.
The Congress and the country haven't paid attention to it, right? They expect it to work. And so now I think the lights are blinking, the sirens are turning, and they're saying, listen, we have to fix this, because what you see in Newark is going to happen in other places across the country.
The FAA also issued a ground stop for some flights bound for Hartsfield-Jackson Atlanta International Airport due to a runway equipment issue, separate from the issue impacting Newark. More than 50% of flights were delayed at the Atlanta airport Sunday, according to the website FlightAware. Former Transportation Department Inspector General Mary Schiavo says aging technology has been a concern for years, and the expense is rising.
Congress has said that they are giving them an initial budget of something like 12.5 or 15 billion. That's the tip of the iceberg.
In Atlanta, Ivan Rodriguez, KPBS News.
The Trump administration is beginning a process it says will reduce prescription drug prices. It started with an executive order signed this morning at the White House. Within 30 days, the administration will give price targets to drug makers. The goal is to force companies to match lower prices that are paid by developing countries.
Starting today, the United States will no longer subsidize the health care of foreign countries, which is what we were doing. We're subsidizing others' health care, countries where they paid a small fraction of what for the same drug that what we pay many, many times more for.
President Trump signed a similar executive order in 2020, late in his first term in office. It faced lawsuits and was not pursued by President Joe Biden. Today's executive order also directs the Health and Human Services Department to facilitate direct-to-consumer sales that would bypass insurance companies. It was a huge day for stocks, with the Dow Index gaining more than 1,100 points. As Jen Sullivan reports, it's a reaction to the latest news about trade between the U.S. and China.
U.S. markets opening strongly Monday morning following the announcement that the U.S. and China have agreed to roll back tariffs temporarily.
I think it's really a very historic fresh start in the relationship between the U.S. and China.
Overall tariffs on Chinese goods will drop from 145% to 30%, and China will cut tariffs on American imports from 125% to 10%. But U.S. consumers could still see higher prices on goods because of supply chain concerns.
We currently do not have any container ships at port right now.
On Friday, officials at the Port of Seattle said cargo traffic bound for the U.S. hasn't been this low since the pandemic. A similar situation at the Port of Los Angeles, where 0 cargo vessels had departed from China Friday as well. Volume at the busiest U.S. ports has dropped more than 30%. These Chinese ships typically carry a variety of products that U.S. consumers depend on. Here's why that's a big concern. The Port of LA is one of the largest in the world. According to their stats, China and Hong Kong are the biggest importers, bringing in $120 billion worth of goods last year to this port alone.
We may be seeing empty products on the shelves. So this is now going to be felt by the consumer.
Once the cargo hits U.S. ports, the goods take as little as a few weeks to hit store shelves. But with fewer ships arriving, some U.S. leaders warn consumers will feel the crunch.
Nothing is actually going to come from this other than continued higher prices and uncertainty, instability.
For Consumer Watch, I'm Jen Sullivan.
And here is a look at what we are working on for tomorrow in the KPBS newsroom. NPR's Morning Edition will announce the winner of this year's Tiny Desk contest, showcasing unsigned musicians and bands. And tomorrow's Midday Edition is all about API Heritage Month, with segments about the local Asian American and Pacific Islander communities. You can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org. Thanks for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. Good night.
Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Bill Howe Family of Companies, providing San Diego with plumbing, heating, and air restoration, flood and remodeling services for over 40 years. Call 1-800-BILL-HOWE or visit billhowe.com. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marcos Shiley, and by the following. By viewers like you. Thank you.